Very good morning to all. It's a great pleasure. On behalf of Anna Nagar CPE Study Circle, I'm yours Hemant Kumar, convener. Happy Independence Day. Today we have two very good distinguished guests here. We'll start our CPE virtual session formally with our ICAI motto.
meeting
Sukteshu Jagrati Yaesha Sukteshu Jagrati Kamam 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 Sho Nirmimanaha Nirmimanaha Adeva Shukram Adeva Shukrana Brahma Adeva Amrita Mujjaya Asmin Lokaha Asmin Lokaha Sarve Taduna Vyavikaśana Etadvaita 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 Etadvaita.
So, on behalf of Anna Nagar CPE Study Circle, the special day of Independence Day Eve, we are doing our virtual CPE on taxation on AOP and BOI. Today we have, in fact, our chairman supposed to SARC of ICAI supposed to join, and occupied, sir could not able to join. And we are fortunate here today, our session chairman and chief guest, chartered accountant, Kovai Dalapati, our good friend Dalapati sir is here, and our vice chairman SARC. Welcome, sir. I request vice chairman sir and session chairman to give a brief opening remarks to the members. Over to Dalapati sir.
Very respected and a great speaker of the day, CA Dr. Girish Aguja, the convener of Anna Nagar CPE Study Circle, and my good friend CA Hemant, other office bearers of this chapter, professional colleagues, and viewers of the program. Very good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be participated through virtual mode on this great morning. Let me wish you all a happy Independence Day. While celebrating our Independence Day with the pride in our past and confidence for a glorious future, let us resolve to revive the spirit of freedom movement that broke the barriers of religion, economic disparity, caste divisions, and language differences, and truly united all of us into one Indian. Today is a memorable occasion for every citizen of this great country. I offer my appreciation and congratulations to the organizers for having scheduled this program and inviting one of the luminaries of our profession, our respected and beloved Dr. Girish Aguja. This program would also be a memorable one for the viewers, as the rich experience of our learned speaker is to be shared with our elite viewers. The next 2 hours will be the feast of knowledge for everyone. Dr. Girish Aguja has always been encouraging and supporting ICAI, which is dear to his heart. So grateful to you, sir. I would have otherwise been happier to join physically with the members, but the present COVID-19. I am very confident that in the very near future, we will be able to mingle together in many forums. Nevertheless, I am extremely delighted to be part of this morning and I share some of my thoughts with you all. Today's topic of discussion is one of the core areas of our professional practice, which is taxation and assessment of association of persons and the body of individual. Each one of the concepts reflects different compositions, though both look to be synonymous. It will be interesting to note that dissimilarities between the two. One is the integration of people for mutual benefit, whereas the body of individual, though looks to be similar, has some basic differences. How these two areas of taxation differ, to what extent, the complaints procedure, and all aspects governing the tax administration in AOP and BOI needs a fresh study and outlook. Yes, you all may be aware that the subject of taxation is most dynamic, with the relevant acts and provisions keeps changing by way of legislations and surplus. To more about all this, we have with us our erudite and esteemed speaker of the day, who would analyze in depth during the course of his presentation to enhance and enrich our knowledge. A couple of days before, our Honorable Prime Minister of India unveiled a unique platform for transparent taxation with the tagline "Honoring the Honest," aiming a tax system to be seamless, painless, and faceless, as pointed out by the Honorable Prime Minister. The government has also launched a tax charter aiming at fair and rational approach towards the taxpayers. We hope these announcements made by the Honorable Prime Minister, there will be a remarkable turnaround in the tax administration, making it more people-centric and public-friendly, coupled with good governance, resulting in improvement quality of assessments. We as a chartered accountants have to play a pivotal role in these efforts of the Honorable Prime Minister and a partnership nation building. Members should be aware that every initiative of Government of India will give you a better India as well as more professional opportunity for accounting professions, more particularly chartered accountants. So kindly make use of these opportunities. In today's perspective and expectation from the stakeholders, chartered accountants have a pivotal role to play, and at the same time, with the utmost caution to provide the best of the services. The present government policies related to finance and economy are targeting growth and development at a very fast rate. And to cope up with, we have to move forward and updating ourselves in all aspects. Our strength lies in showcasing our skill, diligence, dedication, and devotion, which in turn bring about the effectiveness and efficiency of the functions, both for the auditor and the auditing, that result in good corporate governance. I am confident that Anna Nagar CP Study Circle, with the active support of its members, would continue to offer its best service to stakeholders and support the initiatives of SARC. As you must be aware that intent of ICAI for the formation of CP Study Circle is to ensure that members should be able to participate in large numbers in the continuing educational programs without having to commute a long distance to regional and branch headquarters. I am quite sure that Anna Nagar CP Study Circle will achieve its objective for which it was formed. I once again congratulate the organizers and thank them for giving me this great opportunity. Let us keep the pace of empowering ourselves and contributing in all possible ways for the better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman, sir, for your wonderful opening remarks. I don't want to take much of time of the other members. And very straightly, it is that our dream comes true after a long desire. The great speaker, Dr. C.A. Girish Ahujaji, with us. So, at introduction, my age, my experience will not sufficient to introduce him. He is such an eminent and dynamic, legendary personality. Without much, every one of the members know about Sir Singh. Sir is a PhD graduate and a doctorate in dissertation management. And without wasting much of the time, we have a lot of doubts like how to form the AOP, how to form BOI, what is the difference between forms and AOP, BOI, how taxation, what is meant by MMR, all these doubts we have, sir. Kindly, straight away, without wasting even single minute of time, straight away, I'll give it to Dr. Girish Ahujaji to start and take the session. Thank you, sir. Unmute, sir. Kindly unmute your...
Thank you, MLJ. Good morning to all and happy Independence Day to all. Yes, the Vice Chairman of the South India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, C.A. Jalpati, Mr. K. Jalpati ji, the convener of the Anna Nagar Study Circle, C.A. Hemant Kumar ji, then there is a gentleman called A. Moganath ji, the C. Madhuswamy, and the other dignitaries sitting in front of me or listening to me. Thank you very much. Happy Independence Day once again. And let me start with the topic. Let me tell you, this is the topic which is untouched. People think there is only one kind of AOP BOI. No, sir. There are different kinds of AOP BOI. Different kinds. Cooperative society is also AOP BOI. Cooperative society. A charitable trust is also AOP BOI. A society registered under Society Registration Act is also AOP BOI. I'll give you that. A trust, private trust sometimes is also AOPI. A mutual association can also be AOP BOI. People think there is only one kind of AOPA. No, it is not. I know that person includes individual, HUA, firm, company, AOP, BOI, whether incorporated or not. We are coming to that. AOP or BOI, whether incorporated or not, whether registered or not registered, right? AOP, BOI. People think there is some registration of AOP, BOI. Not necessary. But if you are, what is AOP? Associations of person. Person. And what do you mean by person? Person includes individual, person includes HUF, person includes company, person includes firm. And if all of them join together to do some activity, to earn income, we call it as association of persons. Person, not necessarily individual. There may be individual, there may be HUF, there may be a company, there may be firm joined together, maybe a joint venture. It's also a AOP. But if only individuals join together in a group, not forming a company, not forming a firm, then it is called as body of individuals. If you are forming a company, shareholders join together. If you form a partnership, partners join together. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking that individual join together without forming a company or forming a firm or LLP is known as body of individual. If a person other than individual also join together, we call it as association of person. Mr. Jalapati told me right in the beginning, there must be some difference between the two. The difference between the two is only this, that in the case of AOP, the person who can join together may be more than individual also, other than individual also. But in body of individuals, only individual join together without forming a company or without forming a partnership firm. So that is the basic difference between the two. But in many places, it may not be there. Now, let me tell you, cooperative society can be body of individuals. A cooperative society can be AOP also, meaning 2 cooperative society join together, 3 cooperative society join together. That is AOP. But if only individuals join together to form a cooperative society, it is called a body of individual. And cooperative society is a body of individual. It is not a partnership. It is not a firm. It is not a LLP. It is not a company. Then what it is? Body of individuals. But you know that we have a separate rate of tax in case of cooperative society, and we have one more very important section in case of cooperative society, and that section is ATP. Besides this, all sections are applicable, but special section for cooperative society, everyone knows, is section ATP. ATP is the special section. So one kind of a cooperative society, one kind of a AOP BOI is cooperative society. At what rate taxable, I take it. Another kind of BOI or is a society registered under the Society Registration Act 1860 or any other act which is in force in a particular state. Society registered under the Society Registration Act. Most of you know that 7 persons are supposed to be there to form a society. They should not be blood related, but at least 7 persons should be there to form a society, and they get registration under the Society Registration Act 1860. Sometimes some amendment is made by the state that are including that amendment. This is also called, if they are only individual, body of individuals. So society is also a body of individual. Then third kind of AOP is mutual association. May be registered, may not be registered. That's why I told you, this housing society. What is a housing society? It is a mutual association. Housing society may be registered under the Society Registration Act. Housing society may be registered under the Cooperative Society Act. You know, they can be registered under the Cooperative Society Act also. Housing society can be incorporated, means registered, or may not be registered. So therefore, housing society is a mutual association most of the time. A club is also a mutual association because we people join together to form a club. Sometimes you get it registered. The club may be registered, maybe under Society Registration Act. The club may be registered as a trust. The club may be registered some other form. But society, a club is also, can be a cooperative society also. So the constitution can be different, but club or mutual association is basically AOP or BOI. Then coming to charitable trust, you know that charitable trust, if it is taxable, then what is it? It is AOP. It is taxable at the rate of AOP, sometimes called at MMR. That MMR I'll tell you later. But charitable trust is also an AOP or BOI because it is for the benefit of public at large. So it is a trust. A trust is AOP or BOI. When you apply for a PAN number, sometimes they give you PAN with a T. T is trust. Sometimes they give you PAN number with AOP. You should not take the PAN number of AOP, you take the PAN number of T. But T is also AOP BOI. T is also AOP BOI. So charitable trust is also AOP BOI. A private trust is sometimes AOP BOI. When beneficiaries are indeterminate, the private trust, if not taxable MMR, is treated as AOP BOI for taxation purposes. So that is also AOP BOI, a private trust. Oral trust, it can also be AOP BOI. And then last category, any other AOP BOI. Are you noticing? Any other AOP BOI. Here, no question of registration. If they are society, they will be registered under Society Registration Act. If they are cooperative society, it is registered in the Cooperative Society Act. If they become trust, they can form Section 8 company. If they become trust, they can form society. They can form a society or they can form a trust. So in three categories of charitable trust. Constitution is three categories. One category, Section 8 company. Then still it is a trust, Section 8 company. But there we will call it as a company. And second is society. Society registered in a society. And you can take it separate category here. Or third can be, you can register a charitable trust. So this is also AOP BOI. Private trust, I will come to that. Indian Trust Act 1882 applies. But in certain cases, private trust is taxed as AOP. It taxed at the rate applicable to AOP. That's why we came it up. And there is the last section, AOP or BOI, whether incorporated or not, a joint venture, which is not under society, which is under not a cooperative society. Two companies joined together to take up a housing project. Where is the registration? No registration. It's only an agreement between the two of them. They are not forming partnership. They are not forming company. They are joining together a joint venture in the last category of AOP. Last category of AOP. There may not be a registration. Where is the registration? They are not company. They are joining together. 2 or 3 persons join together to do some work is also AOP or BOI. So that is last category. To that, Section 167, capital B is applicable. How that AOP is taxable, it is covered under Section 167B. So therefore, people think AOP is a very simple concept. AOP is not a simple concept, Mr. Jalpade. It is a difficult concept. It is untouched concept. People don't think that there is a cooperative society, it is also body of individuals. It can be association of person, because if it is not individual, it cannot be individual, it cannot be HUF, it cannot be firm, it cannot be what you call company. Then what is it? Either AOP or BOI or any other artificial juridical person. You conclude under the tag. You know, we have 7 categories of person: individual, HUF, firm, company, AOP, BOI, whether incorporated or not, local authority, or any other artificial juridical person. To the God, to the temple, we say artificial juridical person. It is artificial. Certain societies are artificial, but in the most of the cases, AOP may not be registered. Still, it is AOP or BOI. Clear, sir? Joint venture is an AOP or BOI. Coming now. For cooperative society, the same provisions, you have to compute the total income of the cooperative society under 4 heads of income. Obviously, it has to be computed under 4 heads, because cooperative society cannot have salary income. Cooperative society have house property income. It can have business income. It can have capital gain. It can have income from any other sources. You compute the total income of a cooperative society under 4 heads. Cooperative society means a society registered under the Cooperative Society Act 1912 or any other act which is in force in a particular state. So this is registered, a cooperative society is registered under the Cooperative Society Act 1912 or any other act which may be there. There may be a separate act or some changes in Tamil Nadu for a cooperative society. There may be a separate changes for other, but there is a main act which is called as Cooperative Society Act 1912 is a national act. Thereafter, you can make a modification. You can make certain changes and bring in your own cooperative society act. That is local cooperative society or state cooperative society. But it is just basic provisions are of Cooperative Society Act 1912. Clear? So this cooperative society will compute its income under 4 heads. Nothing special in that. Nothing special. 4 heads, everybody knows. Whether you're individual or HUF, a firm or a company, you have to compute your income under 4 heads. Then you claim deduction under Chapter 6A. When you claim deduction under Chapter 6A, 80C to 80 what you call DDB, that is 80EA, that is only for individual, etc. or HUF. But 80G is for everyone. Contribution, 80G donation. So donation can be given by cooperative society. Donation can be given by any person. So therefore, donation 80G deduction is allowed to cooperative society. Then if the cooperative society contributes for a political party, so 80GGC is applicable for that. That's all. These are 2. Otherwise, for cooperative society, you can have 80IA, you can have 80IB, you can have 80IBA, you can have all sections. But the most important section for cooperative society, Mr. Jalpati, is 80P. 80P. 100 in the case of a cooperative society, there are certain deduction allowed under section 80P, which is exclusively for a cooperative society. So then you must know section 80P. I will give you an overview of section 80P. What is 80P? 100% of income from the following activities shall be exempt. 1, a cooperative society which is engaged in the business of banking or providing credit facility. Wait, business of banking, cooperative bank have been excluded. Now they are not given benefit under 80P, but agriculture cooperative society or agriculture and rural development bank, they still get benefit under 80P of 100% of the profit from such activity. Then credit and thrift society. Credit and thrift society is, if it is a cooperative society, credit and thrift society, it is for members. You know that it is for members. It cannot do banking activity. So credit thrift and society providing credit facility, whatever is the income from that is 100% allowed as deduction under 80P. The entire income is allowed as deduction under ATP. Then activity, a cottage industry. In the case of a cottage industry, if that cottage industry is a cooperative society, it is a cottage industry, it is a cooperative society under Cooperative Society Act, then 100% of the profit of this cottage industry is allowed as deduction under ATP. Then talk about if there is a cooperative society which is meant for marketing of the products grown by its member, marketing of the produce grown by its member, 100% the profit of a cooperative society for marketing this produce grown by its member is allowed as deduction 100%. What is it doing? Cooperative society is marketing the produce grown by its members. You are a member of a cooperative society, you are growing certain produce, and it is marketed by whom? By the cooperative society. And in the case of marketing, they earn some profit. 100% of that profit is allowed as deduction. Clear? This is also a copy of AOPBOI. Next. Now, if a cooperative society purchases agriculture implements, seeds, or any fertilizers or any other item for supply it to its members, then the profit from that purchase which they have done, agriculture implements, which they have purchased, seeds, which they have purchased, fertilizers, or purchase any other produce for agriculture, and if they sell to their members, and if they earn certain margin of profit, that is 100% deduction is allowed. 100% deduction is allowed. Are you noticing? And then a cooperative society, if it is working without the aid of power, if they are manufacturing or producing an article without the aid of power, and it is a cooperative society, 100% deduction is allowed. Then if it is a cooperative society engaged in fishing and other allied activities of fishing, that also 100% deduction is allowed. So are you noticing? The constitution should be of a cooperative society. And you are engaged in the business of credit facility to the members, or what you call cottage industry. You are growing, you are marketing the produce of the members. You are buying goods for the members to supply it to the members. You are without the aid of power running any unit. And last, of course, is fishing and allied activities. If you are doing cooperative society, the entire income 100% is allowed as deduction. This is one kind. Then there is a primary cooperative society engaged in the supply of milk or oil seeds or fruit and vegetables to either the government or to the Federal Milk Cooperative Society or the public sector company. Then in that case, that 100% profit of supplying of that milk or oil seed or fruits and vegetable, you know, Amul is a federal milk society. Amul buys milk from the primary milk societies. There are so many primary milk society which are formed that the milk is produced by them, given to the primary milk society. Then the Amul van will come, collect the milk from the primary society. It is being supplied to whom? It is supplied to Amul. So therefore, 100% profit of the supply of milk of the members or by the cooperative society, whatever profit they earn, it is 100% exempt. I'm not talking about members' income. I'm talking about cooperative society income for supply of milk or oil seeds or fruit and vegetable. In our country, there is SAFAL. You must have heard of the number SAFAL. SAFAL is buying fruit and vegetable from primary cooperative society. So whatever profit that primary cooperative society earns, which we supply to the government, that material, or we supply to the Federal Milk Society or a Federal Cooperative Society or to the government company, it is 100% exempt. Then investment by a cooperative society in the another cooperative society, whatever interest or dividend you receive, it is fully exempt under section under this also. Investment made by one cooperative society in the another cooperative society. What kind of investment will be there? Either it will be a loan, a debt, or it will be a shareholding in that. So whatever money you get, 100% reduction. 100. Then if you have a cooperative society who's engaged in the business of letting out of any godowns or warehouses for warehousing the agriculture produce, then the rent which their cooperative society right is 100% deduction allowed. So are you noticing there is a section 80P which is giving benefit to a cooperative society? But recently a new section has come, 115 BAD, saying that there are certain cooperative society who are not engaged in these activities. They may be given benefit of 80P, may be there, but companies are being taxed at 22%. You know that these days company rate has been reduced to 22%. They wanted the cooperative society should also be taxed at rates of 22%. So the law has introduced 115 BAD, giving a benefit of a cooperative society to be taxed at the rate of 22% if the condition mentioned under 115 BAD subsection 2 are satisfied. There they don't allow you additional depreciation, they don't allow you many other things, they don't allow you chapter 6A. Little here, if you go for 22%, you will not be given 80P. You will not be given 80P. So therefore, it is your choice. You want to take 80P, then you can't go to 115 BAD. Although 115 BAD says you are liable to pay tax at the rate of 22%. But in that case, notice, you will not be given a benefit of 80P. Only one benefit is allowed to cooperative society, 80JJAA, that is employment of worker. Otherwise, no. So therefore, think before you switch over to 115 BAD. If you are eligible to take a benefit of under 80P, then why should you go there? Now, if there is an income of a cooperative society and you have not opted for 115 BAD, at what rate that income is taxable? Can you notice what is the rate? So Hemanji, on the first 10,000, 10%. On the first next 10,000 total income, 20%. On the balance total income, 30%. I fail to understand why this 10% to 20%, just as minor amount on first 10,000 slab rate, 10%. On the next 10,000 of income, 20%. On the balance, it is 30%. Why make it difficult for us to remember this rate? Why can't you say straight away 30%? How much benefit you are going to get? First 10,000, 20%, 2,000 rupees. Next 10,000, 10%, because 30 is the last rate. 1,000. For just 3,000 rupees benefit for cooperative society, you have to remember 3 rates. We call it as a slab rate. What a wonderful slab rate it is. But it is only then when you are not opting for 115 BAD. It is your choice whether to go for 115 BAD or not. But once you go to 115 BAD, then you cannot come back to this section. So be careful. Be careful. Is it clear? So this was the overview of cooperative society. Cooperative banks don't come under this. Cooperative banks do not come under 80P at all. Clear, sir? Can I proceed further? Now coming to society registered under the Society Registration Act 1860 or any other act which is in force in a particular state. Registered society. When I come to 167B, in 167B, let me tell you, the AOP BOI do not include in it by 167B, number 1, a cooperative society, number 2, a company, and number 3, a society registered under the Society Registration Act. If somebody has only 2% I can see, one is the vice chairman, another is the convener, the others are blank. Nobody is there. I just wanted to know whether they are understanding or not, because
Yes,
I'm
sir,
only
yes, sir.
talking to Hemant Kumar ji or I'm talking to Jalpati.
No,
I
no, all
request
members are-
at least some of you should come, and at least I must know what is happening. Are you understanding or you are not understanding?
Yes, sir, yes,
And
sir.
if somebody, very good, very good. Thank you very much. 3 persons have come. Very good, sir. I want to see you. You may have cup of coffee with you. I don't mind. You may keep on eating. I don't mind. I know I don't have that privilege because I'm continuous talking. You can have the privilege of sitting at home and talking to me. But
Thank
what
you.
I'm trying to explain, if somebody has an act, in front of him, kindly read 167B. I would like you to read yourself. One of you should read. If Hemant Kumar ji has an act in front of him, kindly read out. Let the other listen, which is very important. I can also read out, but I want you to read out. Anybody who has an income tax
Yeah,
act
Dhiren
report,
Mohan sir, can
kindly
you-
unmute him.
Yeah. Mr.
Yes,
Dhiren Mohan sir, can-
kindly unmute this gentleman. Unmute this gentleman.
Yeah, shall I go on?
Yeah, please read out.
Dhiren sir, go ahead.
167B. I'm
Yeah.
giving a very important point. 167B, you might not have heard of it. You might not have read of it. Read it today. Boliye sir, please read out.
Yeah, section 167B, a charge of tax where share of members in association of persons or body of individuals unknown. Where the individual shares of the members of an association of persons or BOI other than a company or a cooperative society
Rule. Other than a company, again next,
or a cooperative society
next.
registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860
Let us stop here.
law
First thing is 167B is not applicable for these 3%. Am I right? Other than a cooperative society, to a company or a society registered under the Society Registration Act. This is not applicable. Clear? Now read out.
or under any law corresponding to that act in force in any part of India.
Correct. Keep
In
on.
the whole or any part of the income of such association or body or indeterminate or unknown, tax charge be charged on the total income of the association or body at the maximum,
At maximum marginal rate.
provided that where the total income of any member of such association or body is chargeable to tax at a rate which is higher than the MMR, tax shall be charged on the total income of the association or body.
At such a higher rate. Chaliye, next.
Clause number 2, where in the case of an association of persons or BOI, the total income of any member thereof for the previous year, excluding a share from such association or body of individuals, exceeds the maximum amount which is not chargeable to tax. In the case of that member, under the Finance Act of the relevant year, tax shall be charged on the total income of the association or body at the maximum marginal rate.
That's sufficient. So are you noticing section 167B excludes a cooperative society? It excludes a society registered under the Society Registration Act, and it excludes a company. So therefore, I'm coming to now society registered under the Society Registration Act 1860 or any other act force in the state. Am I right? Now listen to me. At what rate it is taxable? At what rate? It is registered society. It can do business. It can have 4 types of income. A registered society. It can have a house property income. It can have business income. It can have capital gain. It can have income from other sources. Right? It is a registered society. At what rate it is taxable? Anyone? At what rate it is taxable? It is a registered society under this. Now, let me come to the rate. Try to understand. If you look up the Schedule 1 of any income tax act, there are the rates given, normal rate of income tax given under Schedule 1 of the Income Tax Act, normal rate, which has, Schedule 1 has 3 parts, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. Part 1 gives you the rate of the assessment year, Part 2 gives you the rate of TDS, and Part 3 gives you the rate for the next assessment year for the purpose of paying advanced tax. for the purpose of paying advance tax. This part 3 becomes part 1 of the next assessment, next finance act. Let me tell you, part 3 gives you the rate of income tax for deduction of tax from salary or rate of income tax for payment of advance tax. For the, let's say, Finance Act 2020, part 3 has given you rate of advance tax to be paid in the financial year 2021, assessment year 21-22. This is the rate of advance tax or rate of TDS for salary. It is given in part 3. Agreed? Now this part 3 will become part 1 in Finance Act 2021. And there it will say rate of income tax for assessment year 2021. Are you getting my point? The rate of income tax are not there. It will come next year for 2021 previous year assessment 21-22. Assessment year 21-22 rate of income tax is not there. It is rate of advance tax. It is rate of advance tax. But next year, when Finance Act 2021 comes, it will become the rate of income tax for assessment year 21-22. Are you noticing my point? Last year, Finance Act 2019, part 3 had given you rate of advance tax for financial year 19-20, assessment year 2021. Now this Finance Act 2020, part 1 gives you the rate of advance tax, rate of income tax for assessment year 2021. So are you noticing? The same rate which is for advance tax rate normally becomes the rate of income tax in the next assessment. Clear? So if you look up that, they have given first item, rate of income tax in case of an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, or any other artificial juridical person. Don't think the rate is only for individual. The rates are for individual, Hindu undivided family, AOP, BOI, or any other artificial juridical person. If I ask you, what is the rate of income tax or AOP? Immediately people say maximum marginal rate. Absolutely wrong. It's not maximum marginal rate. It's not maximum marginal rate. If they want to say maximum marginal rate, they will say in a particular section that it is maximum marginal rate will be applicable. Otherwise, rate of AOP, BOI is same as that of HUF, is same as that of individual, except senior citizen and 80-year-old. That is different. Because senior citizen, you know that it is 3 lakh. For very senior citizen, it is, how much is the rate? It is 5 lakh. But for all others, what is the rate of slab rate? On first 2,50,000, you are nil. On next exemption, on next 2,50,000, it is 5%. On the next 5 lakh, it is 20%. On the balance income of about 10 lakh, it is 30%. This is the rate of income tax, my dear, also for AOP or BOI. And 90% even the department, CP that is sitting in Bangalore, charge you maximum marginal rate. I don't understand. How can they charge you maximum marginal rate if you are a society registered under the Society Registration Act? It may be possible that we have not filled up the return properly. We have not filled up the return form 5 properly. I'm not talking about charitable trust. Charitable trust is form 7. I'm talking about form 5 for AOP, BOI. It is also for firm. It is not for company, AOP, BOI. When you fill up a form, and if you have a society and you are registered under the Society Registration Act, kindly note, you will be taxable at a slab rate and not at maximum marginal rate. Maximum marginal rate will come whenever they want it to be taxed at maximum marginal rate. They will tell you that it will be taxed at maximum marginal rate, like in 161 subsection 1. If you are carrying on a private trust doing business, MMR. If your shares are indeterminate, MMR. If he has just read 167B, he has just read, that is also MMR. So wherever they want MMR for AOP, BOI, they will write, not in the beginning, in that chapter, that you are taxable at MMR. Otherwise, what rate you are taxable? You are taxable at slab rate. And what is the slab? On first 2,50,000 of that society, nil. Next 250,000, 5%. On next 5 lakh, 20%. On the balance, 30%. Are you noticing my point? And what is the surcharge? How much is the surcharge? Same like individual. That means surcharge, if your income exceeds 1 crore, 10%. If your income exceeds 10 crore, 15%. If your income exceeds 2 crore but does not exceed 5 crore, 25%. And if your income exceeds how much? 5 crore, 37%. The surcharge is same like individual, HUF, artificial unit. People are thinking, I'm noticing the faces. They are aware, they are noticing that first time we have come to know this. I'm noticing the faces. I'm reading the faces, and on their face, the expression is very clear. That's why you want face in front of me. The expression is very clear that we didn't know about this part. The expression is there. Maybe few are aware, but I have seen few people saying that we were not aware of this thing. We did chartered accountancy, but that was done years back. Who bothers to read thereafter? Who has time to read Income Tax Act? And nobody has read Income Tax Act. How can you read Income Tax Act? One section. Then there under that section, subsection. Under that subsection, clause. Under that clause, can anybody tell me? You can unmute. Can anybody tell me? In one particular section, there is a section. After that, there is a subsection. After subsection, there is a clause. What is there after the clause?
Proviso.
Oh, after the clause is subclause. And what is there after the subclause?
And proviso?
Somebody will say proviso. No. After the subclause, there is sometimes item. And after this item, there is sub-item. And after that, provided that. And if you want second proviso, provided further that. If you want third proviso, provided also that. If you want fourth proviso, provided also that. Fifth proviso, provided also that. Section 1023C has 19 provisos. One section, 19 proviso. Still it is not complete. Next is explanation number 1. Explanation number 2. And there can be more than 2 explanations also. We are looking for a full stop. The comma is after 6 lines. This is our law. This is our law. The comma is after 6 lines. So what a complicated piece of legislation. Who bothers to read 167B? Nobody. Who bothers to read the rate of tax for AOP, BOI? They always say it is a maximum marginal rate. Absolutely wrong. It is normal slab rate like for HUF, like for artificial unit. Then there is second, in case of firm, 30%. In case of company, it can be 30, 25, 22, 15%. These are 4 rates for company these days. Then in case of a cooperative society, I have told you the rate. The rates are given in the Finance Act. They are not normal rates. Yes, special rates are given under Chapter 12 of the Income Tax Act. That is a different thing. But all other rates, normal rate of income tax are given in the relevant Finance Act. They are not given in the Income Tax Act. Your total income is taxable at 2 rates. One at normal rate, another at special rate. Whatever is the normal rate, it is given in the Finance Act. Whatever is the special rate, it is given in the Income Tax Act. Chapter 12 and 12A gives you the special rate of tax. That's why 115A, 115AB, 111A, 112, 112A, capital gain, 115A, 115AB, 115AC, 115AD. These are all rates of special rate. 115B, 115BA, 115BB, 115BBC, 115BBD, 115BBE. You must be knowing BBE. That is 60% plus 25% plus 10%. Am I right? That is 115 BBE. Then we have 115 BB. They're all special rate. They are not the normal rates given in Chapter 2 as well as for non-resident Indian given in chapter 12A, starting from 115C to 115I. First time hearing. Face expression is first time hearing. No, you are not hearing. You are not using it regularly. That's why. You know it. Because when we did what you call CA, that time we could not understand. We never saw any finance act or income tax act. We were just passing out some from books or notes, and we never saw any act. We could not understand. And after becoming a chartered accountant, we don't want to read it. Oh, who will read that? Such a difficult piece of legislation. Such a difficult piece of legislation. And sometimes what happens is, there you read a particular section, and on the last line it is written, it is not applicable from assessment year such and such. And you have wasted your time in reading that section. I told many friends of mine, you should read 1 or 2 sections every day. He said, sir, I read 1 section. And it took me 3 hours to read that section, subsection, clause, subclause, item, subitem, proviso. And the last line written was, it is not applicable from assessment year 2010-11. So we also don't know whether that section is applicable or it is not applicable. So I told you, whenever you read Income Tax Act, first see the last line, whether it is applicable or not applicable. Don't waste your time if it is already abolished or already omitted. So be careful about that. So that's why I'm telling you, we have redrafted income tax. I have the part of the task force to redraft the income tax. We have already given the new income tax to the government, which is, you say income tax has only 295 sections. This is absolutely wrong. Income tax has more than 550 sections. You'll say, how are you saying, sir? I told you just now, 44A, 44AA, 44AB, 44AD, 44AE. What are these sections? These are main sections. Just I told you 150.
Sir, kindly unmute it, sir.
How I became.
No.
So 115A. So these are the sections which are main section. Whatever section is with capital, it is main. So we have 550 section. We have reduced to 275 section. Let's see when will it come. But no proviso there. No proviso at all. The simple law made. Let's see when will it come. But today, this law is a very cumbersome law, but very interesting.
When is it?
Very interesting. So you know at what rate society register under Society Registration Act is applicable? Slab rate. Slab rate. Because there it is not mentioned maximum marginal rate. Slab rate. They compute their income under 4 heads, claim deduction, and then pay tax at a slab rate. Clear? We have done society registered under the Society Registration Act. Let us come to the mutual association. A housing society is a mutual association. Now this housing society may be registered under the Society Registration Act or may not be registered under the Society Registration Act. It may be registered under the Cooperative Society Act or it may not be registered. Like whenever we are sitting here, 7, 8 people I can see, we form ourselves into a mutual association. Can there be income of a mutual association? No, you cannot earn income from yourself. You can't earn. You, for all of us to join together, contribute 1,000 rupees each and collect the money about, let's say, 5 lakh rupees. Is that money taxable? No, not at all. It is mutual association. And when we spend that money, it is spent on yourself. So therefore, there is no income. A housing society can be a cooperative society, mutual association, income totally exempt. It can be society registered under Act, mutual association, income is exempt. It cannot be, it may not be registered. A club. Club is also a mutual association. Have you noticed that club? Club does not pay tax. Wait. But there is a judgment of Bangalore Club, which says if the club is earning any money from members and spending on member, there is no income. But if the club is earning any income from person other than members, suppose you have deposited the money in a bank and it is FDR interest, and that club or that society or that a mutual association is getting interest, that interest will be taxable. That interest will be taxable. But whatever you receive from members, housing society from members, or whatever you spent on members is not taxable, because ultimately the money which is left with you belongs to member. But this mutual association, you may form as a society registered, you may form as a cooperative society, you may form in any other manner, but if that income is taxable because you have earned income from outside, suppose you have a housing society, you have allowed somebody to put TV tower on the housing society, you are earning income. Are you earning income from members? No, outsider. It is taxable. You have allowed them to put advertisements there in your cooperative society. It is taxable. You have deposited the money in a bank. You are getting interest. It is from person other than member. It is taxable. Now, at what rate? Depends. What is the constitution of cooperative society? Constitution of mutual association. If the mutual association is a society registered under Society Registration Act, slab rate. If the mutual association is a housing society, a cooperative society, mutual association, then 10,000, 10%, next 10,000, 20%, balance 30%. Are you noticing? If there is not a mutual association, then it will be taxable at maximum marginal rate because you are not registered. But whatever you earn from your member and whatever, even the membership transfer fee is not taxable in the hands of the cooperative society. Whatever you receive from member and whatever you give it to the member is not taxable. But whatever you are earning from outside, Bangalore Club says it is fully taxable. How would you tax it? On the basis of the constitution of that mutual association. What kind of a constitution this mutual association has, you have to tax it at that rate. So if this mutual association is a cooperative society, at least it is a cooperative society, AOP BOI. If that mutual society is a society, it is also AOP BOI. I've just told you. Am I right? Now we go to the next one. First, let me take charitable trust. Registered under 12AA. Or registered under 12AA. If there is a charitable or religious trust, you know that its income is exempt. If they satisfy if the income is exempt as per section 11 and 12. Under section 11 and 12, their income is exempt. You all know that. 11 and 12. I'm not talking about charitable trust today, but I'm telling you, suppose the charitable trust can have 3 types of income. Number 1, income from a property held under a trust wholly for charitable religious purposes. Income from a property. Property does not mean immovable property. Income from any asset held under a trust wholly for charitable or religious purposes. What kind of income you can have from this property? It can be house property income. It can be business income. If you're business, I'll take later. Sorry, I'll not take later. Business, I'll take later. It can be house property income. It can be capital gain. It can be income from other sources. You have got interest deposit. You have got interest or any other income. So house property, this cooperative society is income number 1. Income number 2 of a charitable trust, voluntary contribution, which they receive under section 2, clause 24. Voluntary contribution by any person to the charitable trust, that is donation to the trust. Donation to the trust is also an income of the trust. It's a different thing that if the donation, if the voluntary contribution is with a specific direction that it will form part of the corpus of the trust, then it is fully exempt under 11(1)(d). Am I right or wrong? But if there is a voluntary contribution without a specific direction that it will form part of the trust, it will be your income. And this income you have to apply 85% and you can accumulate only 15%. This is the second income of the trust. Third income of the charitable trust can be income from a business which is incidental to the attainment of the objective of the trust, provided separate books of accounts have been maintained for that. That is section 11, subsection 4A. A trust can do business also. There is a hospital. They have a dispensary below in their hospital. That dispensary is what is doing? Selling medicine. They are doing business, but that business is incidental to the attainment of the objective of trust. And if they maintain separate books of account, then it is your income, which is taxable. But you can claim exemption by applying this income as per section 11 or section 12. Am I right or wrong? 85% you apply, 15% you can accumulate because it is a business income. A trust, a college, a school can carry on sale of books. They may be selling uniform. They may be running canteen. They're all business. This is all business income of a school, college or university. That income should be from a business which is incidental to the attainment of the objective of trust, and separate books of account maintained. That is also income which is an income of a trust. What rate this income is taxable? If you have not been given benefit and exemption under 11 and 12, you have not been given benefit of whatever. Suppose you have trust income is 5 crore total, all the three income taken together, and you got a benefit of what you call under 11 section and 12 section of, let's say, 4 crore. Then what about that 1 crore? After 15% you got 4 crore. What is that 1 crore which is not applied during the year? It is taxable. It is taxable. At what rate? At what rate it is taxable? There is a income, three kinds of income of a trust. One I told you, income from property, house property, or income from capital gain, income from other sources. Number 2 was donations, and number 3 was business, which is incidental. These three income, if you apply 85 and accumulate 15, the complete is exempt. But if you are not able to apply 85 and you have not given 11(2) also, you want to pay tax, at what rate it is taxable? Anyone?
Slab
It is
rate.
not taxable at
Slab
maximum
rate.
marginal rate.
Slab
It
rate.
is
Slab rate.
taxable at the rate applicable to AOP. That is slab rate. It is not taxable at maximum marginal rate. It is taxable at slab rate of AOP BOI. Are you understanding? Therefore, this trust is also AOP BOI. Wait. But if that trust, there is some income of a trust which inure for the benefit of person referred to in 13.3, or which has applied for the benefit of person referred to in 13.3, or there is an income of a trust which is not accumulated as per the provisions of 11.5, you are not kept the money in a mode given under 11.5, then in these three cases, that part of income is taxable at MMR, maximum marginal rate. Are you noticing? Sir, you are understanding a new concept. I wanted to, Hemant asked me which topic. I said, this is a topic where many people are not aware. So a charitable trust pays tax at a normal rate applicable to individual. But wait, but if there is a charitable trust where the income inure for the benefit of person 13.3, you know 13.3, that 13.3 is for the benefit of the author of the trust, for the benefit of the trustee of the trust, for the benefit of the manager of the trust, for the benefit of the person who has a substantial interest, for the benefit of a person who has contributed more than 50,000 as donation in the trust, or the relative of these persons. So then in that case, if the income inures there or it is applied, it is taxable at maximum marginal rate. And third income, if you do not accumulate income as per the mode given under 11.5, you know that mode of 11.5, then also it is taxable at MMR. Other income is taxable at slab. Have you understood now?
Yes.
Charitable trust, sir, is also AOP or BOI? Is also an AOP or BOI? Now let us come to private trust. What is a private trust? Trust created for benefit of certain persons. Am I right? Trust created for the benefit of certain persons. Clear? Now, first thing is, whenever you create a trust, that asset which you transfer the trust should be irrevocable transfer. It should be a transfer which is irrevocable. If it is a revocable transfer, section 61 says, income from that asset shall be taxable in the hands of the transferor. In the hands of the transferor. So it should be irrevocable transfer. Now, second point, very important. Listen to me carefully. Section 56, subsection 2, clause 10 says that if there is a trust created by the individual for the benefit of his relative, then when you transfer to the trust, it is not taxable in the hands of the trust. But if you create a trust for the benefit of unrelated person not given in the definition of relative in 56(2)(10), then now from 1st April 2017, the entire income will be taxable. Entire money which is given to the trust will be taxable under section 56 subsection 2 clause 10 as income under the head other sources. If there is a trust created by you and you give to that trust 2 crore rupees, money more than 50,000, it will be treated as a gift to the trust. You give a movable property to the trust, it will be treated as gift to the trust now from 1st April 2017. If you give immovable property to the trust, it will be treated as taxable in the hands of the trust. But if the trust is created for the benefit of relative, established or created for the benefit of a relative, then by the individual, then in that case, that asset which you have received or immovable property or a movable property or money is not taxable in the hands of the trust. So now you cannot create a private trust for unrelated person from 1st April 2017. Or if you have already a private trust for unrelated person, you cannot make a donation gift to them. If you make a gift to them, it is going to be taxable in the hands of the trust under the head income from other sources. Are you following my point, sir? Are you understanding my point? This is very important. Now coming to a private trust. There is section 161 subsection 1 which talks about the taxation of a private trust. There is section 164 subsection 1 which also talks about the taxation of the private trust. What is this? Listen to me. 161 subsection 1, that there is a trust created by you. Who will be paying tax in that trust? You have created a trust. When you create a trust, you always form, what do you form? A trust deed. You always have a trust deed, and you get yourself trust registered under the Indian Trust Act 1882. Whenever you form a new trust, kindly note, form only with a small amount, 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees, because you have to pay registration charges. The more the amount, more is the charges. Only pay 10,000. And thereafter, once the trust is registered, you can make any donation of movable property, absolutely no problem. Movable is by just delivery. Yes, when you make a donation, give you an immovable property, that has to be registered. And you have to pay stamp duty in that. That is obviously. So whenever a trust is formed, please, now you can form a trust only for the benefit of a relative. And that can be formed only by individual. But if there are existing trusts, do not take any donation now. If you take a donation from anyone or gift from anyone of the capital amount, it is taxable under the head income from other sources. Now, the trust has received, I told you, for family. How would they tax? We say 161(1) is where the private trust, the beneficiary and their shares are determinate. There can be two types of a trust. One is called private trust, or two types: private specific trust and private discretionary trust. And once it is also called private discretionary trust, where the share and the members are determinate. The beneficiary are determinate. Means you know who are the beneficiary of that trust, and you are also know what is the percentage of the benefit they are allowed to take. Are you understanding my point? Private trust can be for the beneficiary whose share is determinate, and the beneficiaries are also determinate. For what section is applicable? Section 161 subsection 1, where the income of a trust is received by a trustee, where the income of a trust, which is specific trust, where the share are determinate, is received by a trustee. As regards that income, the trustee shall be subject to same duties, subject to the duties, subject to the responsibilities, and subject to the all obligation which the trust, and he will hold this money for beneficiary in favor of the beneficiaries, but he will be assessed in his own name. Sir, when the shares are defined and the ratios are also defined, let me tell you, beneficiaries are also defined. The trustee has to file return of income. He has this income received beneficially, but he will be assessed in his own name, But the assessment has been done in the same manner, to the same extent as it would have been done in case of beneficiary. But who is not taxable? Beneficiary is not taxable. Who is taxable? Trustee will have to file a return. If the beneficiary are determinate and their share is also determinate, who will file return? Trustee. Suppose there is one beneficiary, then there is no problem. 100% will go to him. But if there are more than one beneficiary and their shares are defined and the beneficiary is also defined, the trustee will have to file return of income of all the beneficiaries. If there are 10 beneficiaries, 10 return. If there are 15 beneficiaries, 15 return. And trustee will be taxed in his own name, but in the same manner, to the same extent as the beneficiary is taxable. Suppose if the beneficiaries are individual, then this trustee will file a return of income as representative assessee, on behalf of beneficiary. He'll file return on behalf of the beneficiary. 10 return separately filed, and the provisions of individual will be applicable for assessment of the trustee, but 10 assessment will be there. 10 assessment will be there. Now it is a different thing. He will have to, if there are 20 beneficiary, 20 returns. Now beneficiary can be individual, then return only on behalf of individual. The beneficiary can be other than individual also. Other than return of that, on that basis it will be taxable. Agreed? In the same manner, to the same extent as if the income of the beneficiary. The return to be filed by trustee. And there can be more than one trustee also. Now the return is filed by assessee, the representative assessee, the trustee, will take PAN number as what you call representative assessee. He takes a PAN number of representative assessee. He files the return giving the name of the beneficiary and giving the name of the what you call representative assessee. The assessment will be done on the trustee, but in the same manner, to the same extent as it can be taxable on the beneficiary and can be recovered from him. Clear? That taxation is done in the hands of, but wait, section 164 subsection 1 capital A says, if the income from this trust for which he is a representative assessee, if the income of a trust, which is where share is defined, but it is said notwithstanding anything contained under section 161 subsection 1, if the income received by the representative assessee on behalf of the beneficiary includes business income also, then that trust will be taxable at the maximum marginal rate in the hands of the trustee. MMR. Who will be taxed? Because you are including business income there. MMR. First I said at the rate applicable to the beneficiary. Not taxable at what rate? Maximum marginal rate. Maximum margin. What is the maximum marginal rate? Can you tell me what is the maximum marginal rate? How much is the maximum marginal rate? Can anybody tell me what is the maximum marginal rate?
Foreign company rate, sir?
Huh?
Foreign
The
company.
maximum marginal rate in case of this trust. What is the, it is an AOP BOIE. What is the maximum marginal rate? It's not a company, it is a private trust. What is the maximum marginal rate if it has a business income also? Tell me whatever wrong or right, you tell me.
34.944.
Anji?
34.944.
No, sir.
No, sir,
42.74.
42.74%.
42.74. Maximum marginal rate means 30% plus the maximum surcharge, which is 37%, plus health and education tax, 4%. Are you noticing? Private trust having a business income, shared although defined, share also defined, share ratio also defined, beneficiary also defined. But if it is having a business income also, then the entire income, the whole income of this private trust will be taxable at 42.74%. 42.74%, not 30% plus surcharge. Clear? Wait. Then there is a proviso given. Provided that if there is a trust created by will, by the author, by will, for the support and maintenance of the relative who are dependent on him, and it is the only trust created by the will, then in that case, maximum marginal rate will not be applicable. Then the same slab rate will be applicable in the hands of each beneficiary. Are you noticing one exception? If you have a business income, even if shares are defined, even if beneficiaries are determinate, 42.74%. But wait, if there is a trust which was created by will for the support and maintenance of relative dependent on that author of the trust, and it was the only trust created, then in that case, even if it is a business income, taxable at slab rate. Taxable at the rates applicable to beneficiary. Taxable at rate applicable to beneficiary. Is this clear, sir? Is this clear? 161 subsection 1A and then proviso to section 161 subsection 1A. Clear? Proviso says that trust created by will for the benefit of the spouse, wholly or dependent for support and maintenance on this author, and it was the only trust created by him, it is taxable maximum margin. Then it is not taxable at maximum margin rate, it is applicable to rate applicable to the beneficiary. Now coming to 164 subsection 1. This representative assessee receives an income from a trust which is not meant for one beneficiary, which is meant for more than one beneficiary, but they share or share of their beneficiary are determinate, or the share of the share is also indeterminate. Are you noticing point? Either the beneficiary are indeterminate or the share of the beneficiary is indeterminate, and a trustee receives, that is, who's the trustee? I told you, representative assessee receives income of this trust where there is more than one beneficiary and the beneficiaries are indeterminate, or the share of profit is indeterminate. In that case, the trust will be taxable at the maximum marginal rate. What you call representative assessee will file the return of the trust, and the trust will be taxable at maximum marginal rate because the beneficiaries are indeterminate or their share of profit is indeterminate. Sometimes you make a trust where the profit is indeterminate. You are given that this is the money I'm giving you, the trustee. I've told the trustee that these are the beneficiaries, but whosoever needs the money, you can apply for the benefit of that person. There may be some person who is a dishonest man, who is creating a fraud there, or who is not a good man. So they may not give benefit, the trustee may not give it. It is solely the discretion of the trustee how to apply this income for the benefit of the beneficiary. Then in that case, the entire income of the trust is taxable at maximum marginal rate 42.74%. But wait, there are exceptions. If there is a trust created and none of the beneficiary has income exceeding the exemption limit, and none of the beneficiary is a member of any other trust, then in that case, it will not be taxable at maximum marginal rate. If it is not carrying on business, please note, this trust is not carrying on a business. Still, it is taxable at maximum marginal rate. But the exception is, this trust is not carrying on a business, but none of the beneficiary has income exceeding the maximum exemption limit, and none of the beneficiary is a member of any trust. Then in that case, it will not be taxable at maximum marginal rate. If it does not have business income, it will be taxable at what rate? Rate applicable to AOP, that is slab rate. The trust will be taxable at slab rate. Here the trust is to be taxable, beneficiaries are not taxable. The trust is taxable. Who is representing it? The representative assessee. He is filing a return of the trust, but taxable at slab rate. It will be taxed as AOP. Condition number 1, it is not carrying on a business. Condition number 2, beneficiary, none of the beneficiary has income exceeding the exemption limit, and none of the beneficiary is a member of any other trust. Clear ho gaya? Second, if the trust is created by will, and it is not carrying on business, still it is taxable at slab rate. That is as AOP. But not doing business. Share is indeterminate. Beneficiaries are indeterminate. Not doing business. But if the trust was created by will, then it has not to pay tax at the maximum marginal rate. It has to pay tax at the slab rate. Clear? These are the two exceptions. Right? One is exception before trust created before 1st April 1984. That is a different, I'm not talking. Now, second case, the trust is shares indeterminate, persons are indeterminate, but is also carrying on a business. Once it is carrying on a business, taxable at maximum marginal rate. But there is an exception here also. Here also there is an exception. The trust, share not defined, beneficiary not defined, carrying on a business. But what is the exception? If this trust was created by will for the support and maintenance of the relative dependent on him, and it was the only trust created, then even if it is carrying on a business, it will not be taxable at maximum marginal rate. It will be taxable at AOP rate, that is slab rate. This is 164, subsection 1. Are you clear about that? About charitable trust, I already did. Section 164, subsection 2. Charitable trust, I did that. Now, what is left? What is left now? The left is any other AOP BOI, which he read out. Any other AOP BOI shall be taxable at maximum marginal rate if any member of that AOP or BOI has income exceeding the maximum exemption limit. If any member of that AOP BOI has an income exceeding the maximum exemption limit, whatever is the limit for that member, the AOP or BOI shall be taxable at MMR. Otherwise, it is not slab rate, MMR. Any other kind of AOP, MMR. If it is. And if what is the maximum margin rate? 42.74%. So I'm not saying any other member has a income, a rate of tax higher than that. That can be foreign company equity rate is 42, but here the rate is 42.74%. So therefore, please, I have nothing to do with that. Second case, if none of the members have income exceeding the maximum exemption limit, none of the members have income exceeding the exemption limit, then this AOP BOI will be taxable at slab rate. at slab rate, at slab rate, at slab rate. None of the members have income exceeding the maximum exemption limit. Wait, if any of the member is a firm, there is no exemption limit. If any of the member is a company, there is no exemption limit. If any of the member is an individual, then only there is an exemption limit. No? Where is the otherwise exemption limit? And there is exemption limit of 2,50,000. If none of the members have exemption limit, then if this trust is there, it is taxable at slab rate. Is it clear? Taxable at slab. But once the trust is taxable at slab rate, then this income, the share of the member, is included in the income of the beneficiary. Income of the member as per section 86, and then you are allowed rebate at the average rate of the rebate. I tell you one thing. Suppose there is a trust, none of the member has exemption limit, exceeding exemption limit. That means every member, they are only individual. Every member having income less than 250. So individual income 250. Agreed? Now trust is there. Trust under income of 10 lakh. The trust will pay tax as per the slab rate. What is the tax payable? 1,12,500 plus 10 lakh on 10 lakh plus surcharge plus education cess given. Now whatever is the money you have got, that will be added to the income of each member. That will be added to the income of each member because they are already 2 lakh. Suppose the share comes 1 lakh, it will come 3 lakh. Somebody's income is 240, share come 150, it will become 390. Then you will calculate tax on 390. And thereafter, whatever is the income included from this will be given a rebate at the average rate. Suppose your income was 240. You received 160 from this trust, which was taxable at slab rate. So what is your income? 4 lakh. Am I right? What is the tax on 4 lakh? 250 exempt. 1 less 150. How much is the tax? 7,500, 5%. 7,500. Now 7,500 divided by 4 lakh multiplied by 160, you will get the rebate. And on balance, you will have to pay tax. His income is only 240. Still he is paying a tax because that income which was paid at slab rate has been included. For what purpose? For purpose of computing tax. And then you give her a rebate. I repeat again, ye bhi samajh lijiye. Please try to understand. First time Hindi bola hu. Try to understand. 86 section is a section for rebate. Nobody knows. Nobody has read that if your income of a trust is taxable at this trust, 167B, is taxable at slab rate, then whatever is the share of this gentleman, let's say his total income is 240 from other sources, but share he gets is 1,40,000. Calculate tax on 4 lakh, 7,500. Then give him a rebate, 7,500 divided by 4 lakh multiplied by 160. Suppose it comes to 2,500. I have not calculated. Let it come to 4,000. Then you have to pay tax on that 240, 3,500 rupees. Are you getting my point? Rebate at average rate. Rebate at average rate. So this was the AOP under 167B. And I have covered everything relating to AOP.
Correct, sir.
I think I have not left anything. Now you have to, you can ask me the questions which are there because he told me 11:30. It is going to be 11:30.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Stick to the time.
You are
Tell
great.
me.
Really, it's an awesome and spectacular speech. In fact, participating all the members and having it even one moment this side, that side, we are
I
not.
told him, Hemant, you will listen to this and you will be surprised that you have never heard of this thing.
True, sir. After 26 years back, whatever have that new things are getting in, and the love and affection towards the AOP BOI is started now. So now my mindset is started to working, thinking we had to take more clients and more things. And first I'll take you few set of questions. I have a panel members.
Please do that.
GK
Please
or
do.
Dr. GK G also join with me, and GK Anand and other members will join with us. First question, I'll start with GK G. Can you go ahead and start your questions?
Unmute him.
Yeah, unmute and go ahead. So meanwhile, first question I'll take it up. What is the major difference between partnership firm and AOP and BOE as per income taxing standards, sir?
Partnership firm taxed at flat rate of 30%. The person joined themselves and the partnership act is applicable in their case. Am I right? This is a group of person without forming a company or without forming a partnership. Joint venture. It's a group of person. So this is now, if it is registered under a society, then also it is AOP. If it is registered under a cooperative society, then also it is AOP. If it is a charitable trust, then also it is AOP, I've told you. If it is mutual association, it can also be an AOP, or any other is also AOP.
Thank
So
you.
therefore, their point is, this is a group of person, maybe as a cooperative society, maybe as a society register, maybe as a mutual association, maybe as a private trust, maybe as a charitable trust, maybe any other association of person.
Super, sir. Over to go GKS, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
Under which head of income is rental income from plinth inherited by individual co-owners from their ancestors taxable, whether it is property income or other sources? And
Now, again, come out again the question.
sir, which head of income is rental income from plinth inherited by individual co-owners?
Plinth.
Yeah, plinth.
First point is inherited or if you purchase it, there is no difference in that. Inherited or no inherited, how does it make a difference? You buy yourself or you got it in it, absolutely no problem. Then most of the time the cases are, this is income from other sources. There is only one judgment of tribunal where they say if the plinth has been made and then you are putting the goods there, then it can be taken as income from house property. But according to me, house property means a building and the land appurtenant there too. And building normally has 4 walls and the roof on the top of it. And the roof on the top of it. But there are judgments where it is given that a commercial place may not have a roof on the top of it. Then also it is a house property.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. A commercial place may not have a roof. A residential, it is a box type structure. Roof on the top of it is necessary for whom? For residential. Without a roof, it cannot be a house property. But in the case of a other person, commercial, there may not be a roof at the top of it. May not be. But plinth does not have, if you have a boundary walls, if you have covered with 4 walls, and then there is a plinth, then it is a different thing. But if it is only a simple place of plinth, they may say it is income from other sources. There is no superstructure, and therefore it will be income from other sources, and not here.
Sir, if that
It
is
should be
the
4 walls, at least 4 walls. Wall can be of mud, walls can be of bricks, walls can be of anything, of wood, anything. But walls should be there. 4 walls, roof on the top of it, very good. No roof on the top of it, doesn't matter. Correct? Plinth may not have any wall that are, you must be having, you just put it a barbed wire and you have got a plinth that is not covered under house property at all.
Sir, an extension of this. Would such income be accessible in the hands of individual co-owners or AOP?
Sir, it depends. It is only co-owners. They are not AOP. When you inherit a property, it depends. Or it is a will or it is Succession Act. When you inherit a property under the Succession Act without a will, it is inherited in individual capacity. It is never inherited as HUF also, individual capacity. And therefore they are co-owners. They are co-owners.
So no AOP.
No AOP, not at all. Not at all.
Another Dr. Vijayanandar, sir. Go ahead.
Very lively session. I felt like I was sitting in a different legislation. I was not aware about so many things under our income tax law.
Even I didn't know at that time when I was studying. Now that we write books, that's why we know everything. Otherwise, I don't know much of income. Don't worry. I don't know much of company law. I don't know anything of what you call accounting standard. Even Hemant may not be knowing too much of accounting standard. Seniors are not aware of accounting standard. You are a young boy. You must have read the accounting standard when you passed out a chartered accountancy. You expect me at this age of 74 plus to read accounting standard? Not possible for me. Not possible for me. So therefore, don't worry. Don't think that I am the only person. I may be good at income tax, but I may not be good at other subject. So don't feel disheartened. Don't be disheartened that I didn't know anything. You may be knowing much more many things than me also. I am not very computer savvy. You may be very computer savvy. You may be very, very, things very, don't worry. I was born 74 years back, before independence, and you are born only a few years back. So difference is there. Don't worry.
Anand, go ahead your question.
Tell me question.
One common question which we face from all our clients is, it is usually a resident welfare associations, and the question they ask is whether we have to file a return.
I told you now, if it is a mutual association, not having any income from anywhere, no question. Other than members, if it is a mutual, not taxable. But if it is a mutual association, earning income from person other than members, like interest from bank deposit, like advertisement, like other charges you are recovering, then in that case, you have to file a return of income. If you are registered under Society Registration Act, then your income exceeds 2,50,000. If you are registered under a cooperative society, it has to be filed because on the first 10,000 it is taxable. It depends your constitution. Agreed? It depends on your constitution.
I request our deputy convener, sir, to take a question. Bhaskar ji.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
We had a wonderful session so far. I would
Thank
like
you.
to have one clarification. We are conducting CPE, right? We are collecting fees from non-members for the attending these sessions.
Don't tell.
Do we have to pay tax on this?
Don't tell. Who are you? You are collecting on behalf of the study circle, means collecting on the behalf of ICAI.
ICA only, to go to ICA, sir.
Please.
It is not our, it is to go to ICA accounting only.
It is not you. Don't tell me. I don't want to tell anything on webinar because it is recorded. I will not tell.
They are members only.
DK, sir, to take it up one more question.
Yes, sir. Sir, this is about a company, whether a company could be a member of AOP.
Why
And-
not? Why not? Joint venture. Two company can join together to start a business. Two company, one firm can join together. It will be called AOP. But only individual join together, body of individual. That is the only difference. Only individual join together without forming a partnership of a company, it is BOI. But if two or more than 2%, including individual, HUF, firm, company, all of them can join together, we call it as AOP.
Sir, is the only difference between AOP and BOI is there is a voluntary association is AOP.
Only individual join
Voluntary-
together. No.
No.
Only individual join together, BOI.
Now, voluntary, if individuals come together, can we call that as BOI, or involuntarily they have
They
to?
can be called co-owners also, my dear,
Okay.
at times. So let us not distinguish. You start an activity, you join together to do some activity of earning income. You are BOI. Income tax has nothing to do with if you are not earning income. It's only on income which is going to be taxed. So if you do some activity where there is a resulting into income, then if you are only individual joined together without forming a partnership, then you are BOI.
Sir, can we use,
Registered, you can be registered under a society, you can be registered under a cooperative, or you may not be registered. How does it matter? Taxability difference. That's all.
thank you, sir. Sir, can we take section 44 AD for AOP and BOI?
Not allowed. It is allowed only for individual HUF and a firm other than LLP. So AOP, BOI not allowed 44 AD.
Because
No, not allowed.
there is a small line between partnership from AOP. So why?
No small. Partnership is under Partnership Act. And AOP may be society. AO may be cooperative society. AO may be without any registration. Only an agreement. MOU can be also, a joint venture can be MOU also. Where is the registration required for MOU? Nowhere. But income tax says it is taxable.
But
Maybe at maximum marginal rate, that is a different story altogether.
But 44AB will be applicable based on the sections of 44AB.
Obviously, the turnover exceeds a limit, it is taxable.
Sir, Madaswamy sir, you want to speak? Okay. Sir, Mr.
Sir,
Anand,
one more question from Ilangovan.
please, sir, go ahead, sir.
Sir, if there is sale of property by trust, okay, and how does the tax applicable on that?
If there is a capital gain, first, how do you calculate capital gain on the sale of property? No indexation, nothing. It's in a commercial sense. Don't think that it is indexation, commercial sense. What you do, sale price minus cost, capital gain. This capital gain is your income. Apply that income under 11 or 11(1) says buy another asset. So if the purchase price minus the initial cost, that is treated as application, that's all. That's all. But you have to apply that income.
Sir, there's a question from member Parvati. Sir, a school is a trust but not registered for 12A. Hence, assessed as AOP. It
Will be taxed at the maximum marginal rate.
So
And 56(2)(10) will be applicable. Now 56(2)(10) is applicable if you are not a registered trust or you are not approved under 1023C. Let me tell you, the entire amount which they receive, under it will be taxable. A donation which they receive, whether in kind or in cash, will be taxable under 56 subsection 2 clause 10 as income under the other sources.
Sir, another question from Balasubramanian. In the case of Residential Flat Association, TDS deducted on fixed deposits, what is the taxability on contribution given by the owner?
I've already told you, it is from person other than members. File your return and claim the refund if it is not taxable. If it is taxable, file your return.
TDS can be refunded if it is no income.
Pardon me?
No, in case of any TDS is that will be adjusted if it is taxable.
Obviously, when you file a return and if you are taxable income, you have to take, if it is taxable income, whatever extra is deducted, you will get back, or whatever balance to be paid, you have to pay that. You have to file a return.
Correct. I'd request Prabhakar Reddy to join.
Sir, one question.
Yeah, Mr.
Please tell me.
Sir, what about the applicability of disallowances under 40 and 40A for AOP and BOI, sir?
Say 40A to 40A IA. If you don't deduct TDS, 30% disallowance. If 40A through 3, if you make a payment, the payment exceeds 10,000 rupees and you are going to under business head. These are all business head. And if it is charitable trust, 40A IA, 40A 3 are mutatis mutandis applied to charitable trust also. You know that charitable trust also now 40A applies, 40A IA and 40A 3 applies to the charitable trust also. Let me tell you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, Ilangovan, see, at the time of dissolution of trust, or the trust is the purpose of
Which
the
trust? Charitable, non-charitable?
non-charitable, sir.
Non-charitable trust, 115 TD, non-charitable, okay. It depends. Private trust, what was the wish of the author? First thing is, I told you if it is revocable, then it is otherwise taxable in the hands of the transferor. But if it is revocable after the lifetime of the beneficiary, then after the death of the beneficiary, you can take back that asset, allowed. If you want to dissolve, you should write in the trust deed that, suppose you write a trust, you say when my child becomes 24, the trustee will hand over all the asset to my child or hand over these to these persons. So what it depends upon what are the terms used in the private trust, whether they can be dissolved or cannot be dissolved. Because trust can be perpetual also. Trust can be perpetual also. Trust can be dissolved also on the happening of an event. And that happening of event is a wish of the author. That happening of event is a wish of the author.
Seminar lo he is speaking from Delhi.
Srihar Naidu sir to mute it.
Airports lede.
I request Srihar Naidu sir to mute his phone.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I request
Any other?
Deputy Convener sir will close. Another two questions, sir.
Can I ask two questions?
Yeah,
Tell me, tell me, tell me.
Prabhakar Reddy, go ahead.
This is regarding to the residential welfare association, sir. Mutuality concept, is it a compulsory? Is it optional?
Mutual?
Mutuality concept for residential welfare association, is it a compulsory? Is it optional?
It is not an income. Mutual association is not an income. That income is only when you get from outside. If all of you join together, it is a mutual association. You cannot earn income from yourself.
So
It
if
is
they,
a benefit. Ultimately, the whatever is the surplus will have to go to the members. Whatever is the surplus in a mutual association, if at all there is a surplus, whether you distribute immediately or you distribute after a certain time, it is for the members. It is not yours.
no,
It is not yours.
some of the welfare association choosing as a AOI as a business unit, and whatever they are earning as a interest on the corpus deposit as well as maintenance, both are showing as
Taxable.
income.
It is a taxable. I told you, whatever income is received from person other than members, fully taxable. Exemption is same, depending upon your constitution. Whether
Can-
you are a cooperative society, you are a society registered under Society Act, or you are not registered anywhere, then maximum marginal rate.
But they are treating as a business unit, and the entire interest income, they are
First, tell me
reducing
what
the
is the constitution?
registered under general normal society and formed as a AOI.
No, registered under Society Registration Act or not.
Yes, it is registered under society register.
So then you are taxable at slab rate.
Now, my question is, what they are doing is the interest on income also. They are reducing for capital expenditure and net income. They
Sir,
are
not
paying.
allowed. Bangalore Club judgment. 350 ITR, Karnataka High Court, Supreme Court, sorry. 350 ITR, Supreme Court. Bangalore Club judgment that any income which they earn from person other than member is taxable in the hands of that association of person, or whatever be the nature of that. It is taxable in the hands of mutual association.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So
Sir,
last two
Sir, one
questions,
question.
sir.
Sir,
Last
one
two
question.
questions, please.
Yes, sir. Whether AOP or BOI can be converted into form or LLP?
How can you convert here? The person should be, who can be a member of AOP? Who can be a partner? Living person, individual or company. Nobody else can be a partner. How can AOP be partner? Or who can be a partner of a partnership firm? Living person, that is individual. Or company. Company is an artificial person.
No, sir.
Now HUF becomes partner through the Karta. HUF becomes partner through the Karta. Otherwise, HUF is not a partner. It is the Karta which is a partner, but fund belongs to HUF.
Sir, my question is whether AOP or BOI can be converted into LLP or partnership?
Yes, what can we, how can you do it? Sir, it is members. It cannot be done. Cannot be done. It is only the firm which can be converted into LLP, or it can be company which can be converted into LLP. AOP, how can you convert it into LLP? LLP are the partners. Either dissolve it, bring the members as partner, it is a different thing. Otherwise, it cannot be.
Thank you.
The last question, we'll take it up. Please throw some light on the allowability of payments made to relatives.
What relative?
For
AOP does not have any relative. AOP does not have any relative. If it is a separate assessee, it does not have a relative. He's talking about 48 subsection 2 clause B, where the payment is made to a relative. For then that part of expenditure which is excessive, unreasonable, shall be, if the opinion of the research shall be disallowed. That is only. Otherwise, it's not there. AOP doesn't have relative.
So thank you very much, sir. And I request our.
I hope everything is clear to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know that you have another meeting also at Hyderabad. So
Yeah, I have another. I have two more meetings.
Our deputy convener, sir, to give formal vote of thanks. Then we'll go for national anthem. Over to deputy convener, sir. Formal vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, friends. I mean, it has been one of the most wonderful and lively sessions by our tax guru, Dr. Ahuja ji. I would like to thank on my behalf and all behalf of the association for the wonderful session given to us, sir. Happy Independence Day, everybody.
So we'll stand.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. All that. Chaliye. National anthem.
National
Okay. Now sitting here, national anthem, I have to stand.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. Take care. Stay healthy. All the best. I have to move to the another program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.